We have closed the doors. People are still milling around outside, but we'll go ahead and begin. So I'd like to welcome you to our 2021 election forum. My name is Lisa Lichman. I'm editor of the Steamboat Pilot and Today, and I will be moderating tonight's forum. Our sponsors are the Steamboat Springs Board of Realtors, the Steamboat Springs Chambers Economic Development Council, and the Steamboat Pilot and Today. Tonight's forum is being live streamed on steamboatpilot.com for those who are joining us virtually. And we'll be posting a video of the forum, a video recording of the forum on our election 2021 page following tonight's event. So before we begin, I want to quickly review the forum format, and then we'll let the candidates take center stage. So each will bring up candidates by race, and the candidates will each be given 2 minutes for an opening statement. And then the candidates will have 60 seconds or a minute to answer each of the questions we pose. We'll be posing 4 questions per council race, and the school board candidates will be answering 5 questions. And the questions for each race will be the same, but they'll be different for each race, so no one has an advantage. And then finally, each candidate will be given 1 minute for a closing statement. We have John Bristol is providing, is our timer tonight. And so he will be holding up cards, letting the 30-second, 10-second, and then a time's up card. And we do need to everyone to adhere to those time frames. And so once you see that time's up, you need to finish your thought or your sentence, or I'll have to cut you off. And I really would rather not do that. So the other thing is candidates will answer the same questions as their opponents, and no one has received any of these questions in advance. And I will say we had an outpouring of questions that were sent to me. Probably, I didn't really totally count, but it was at least over 100. So obviously I couldn't get them all in, but I was very pleased with the high level of interest out in the community sending me questions. It's the most I've ever had in the 8 years I've been moderating this forum. And I would just ask the candidates to just be respectful of one another, and personal attacks will not be tolerated. I don't expect that, but I just need to say that. I want to remind people to turn off ringers on your cell phones. And again, we will be live streaming this on steamboatpilot.com. So thank you for your patience. And so we'll begin the forum. So first up, we will bring up the candidates for Steamboat Springs City Council District 1 seat, Gail Gary and David Baldinger Jr. And then you guys will bear with me in between. I will be putting new waters and sanitizing microphones. So you'll have to, yeah, come on up. And you guys can take your masks off, obviously, while you're, yeah. Okay. So we will start with a 2-minute introduction, and Gail, we'll let you start.
Okay, well, thank you, Lisa, and thanks everybody for joining us today, and for everybody that's listening in. You know, my name is Gail Gary. I moved to Steamboat Springs over 20 years ago with my husband. We raised both our children, Madison and Noel Keefe, here in this community, and we really moved to this community because it's a community that values its character and its natural assets. You know, I'm running for City Council because I want to ensure that present and future generations have the same opportunity to live and work in this community and enjoy all that it has to offer. You know, I have a diverse background. I grew up on a farm in the middle of Kansas. I have lived on the East Coast. I've lived on the Front Range. I have a business background. I worked in the telecommunications industry and currently have a business consulting firm. You know, our community is at a crossroads. I think Roger Ashton, former president of the Yampa Valley Housing Authority, said it best when he asked, are we a community or are we a commodity? You know, as our community continues to grow, I think we need to stay focused and balance our economic vitality, our quality of life, with our preservation of the natural environment and our community neighborhoods. You know, if elected, my priorities include working to protect the natural environment and to build resiliency by implementing the Climate Action Plan. My priorities also include working in partnership with the Yampa Valley Housing Authority so that we can work to solve this housing crisis that we have in place today. I also want to work to collaboratively to solve the childcare issues that we have today in terms of affordability and accessibility. And I'd also like to work with our business community to make sure that we have a diverse economy and that we are fiscally sustainable. So again, in conclusion, that's kind of what, my focus and perspective will be, and I certainly look forward to answering any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. David, your turn.
Thank you. Can you hear me in the back? Somebody give me a thumbs up. Excellent. For those of you who don't know me, my name is David Baldinger Jr. I grew up here in Steamboat. I'm a product of the K through 12 school system here in Steamboat. Very proud of that. I attended Dartmouth College and have a degree in environmental science. After college, I was a ski coach. My very first job after college was with the Winter Sports Club. And I was a ski coach for about 10 years with the club and the U.S. ski team. For the last 20 years, I've been a proud realtor, and that's how I've earned my living. The reason I'm running for city council is I think this town needs experience, it needs leadership, and it needs people that have participated in the public process. I look forward to the challenge. And for those of you who don't know, I've served on a board or commission in Steamboat Springs for over 20 years, 10 years on the Planning Commission, 14 years on the Urban Renewal Authority. So I have a lot of experience in the process. I do a good job of working with others, and I think that's a skill that you're really looking for in all the candidates. It's very important you're able to get along with others and build consensus. In terms of issues, I think the number one issue in this room is affordable housing. And there's no doubt we have a great opportunity with the West Steamboat property recently acquired by the Housing Authority. And I think the city will play an important role, especially in terms of infrastructure, planning, and zoning. In addition, I think it's really important that we respect our boards and commissions within the city process. And I think the city council has a wonderful group of volunteers that support them. And so if elected, I think it's very important we listen to our Planning Commission, Parks and Rec Commission, URA, and the like. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now, David, I'll let you answer this question first, and we'll go back and forth. So the first question, what do you see as the biggest issue facing our community, and what would you do to work to solve it as a council member?
That's like extra time. I think it's affordable housing. I think there's no doubt about it. It doesn't matter kind of where you fall in the spectrum, economically, age-wise. And I agree with Gail that, we need to provide for the future of the community. And without affordable housing, we can't have families living in the town. And so it's extremely important. And I think the city council's role will be to develop incentives and really expedite the planning and zoning process in West Steamboat especially.
You still have more time.
That's good.
That's good. Awesome. Okay, Gail.
All right, thank you. Well, as I certainly agree that from a short-term perspective, the biggest issue that's facing our community right now absolutely is affordable and attainable housing. And we absolutely need to work with the Yampa Valley Housing Authority in partnership to solve those issues. We all know people who are losing their long-term rentals because they're being turned over to short-term rentals. And we certainly know a lot of families that are in this community that are leaving as well. So again, I think Brown Ranch is certainly an opportunity that we need to focus on, but I think we also need to focus in the short term and look to see what we can do to make sure that housing is affordable and is attainable. So thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Gail, we'll let you answer this first. What do you think the city can do to champion issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion within the city itself, the staff, and the community?
Thank you. Certainly, diversity, equity, and inclusion should be a priority for our city council. You know, our community should welcome visitors and people that live here alike, no matter what their socioeconomic status is, what their gender is, what their sexual preference is, you know, what their age is. And I think certainly the city has a big role to play in that. It can absolutely, and I believe that it is, taking a look at its current practices and policies to make sure that it's inclusive and that there aren't any sort of barriers in place that prevent diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it also needs to make sure that the support and the services that it provides also are open and accessible, especially to those communities that have been traditionally unrepresented.
Thank you. David?
I agree. I think from a city standpoint, this current council has at least adopted some preliminary policies, and I think we need to go to the action stage in terms of staffing and encouraging diversity within the city staff. I think community-wide, the greatest equalizer is people having equal opportunity to housing. And I think that's a really important aspect, that people who live here, who work here, who visit here are all in close proximity. And I think that's a big part of inclusionary practices. And I think it's really also important that, as Hazy Warner once said, you know, we made room for you. Let's not close the door on Steamboat. So I really favor a diverse community. It's a much more diverse community than the one I grew up in.
Thank you, David. Next question for you, David. Short-term rentals are obviously a hot button issue. Do you think short-term rentals need to be regulated? Why or why not? And how do you think they should be handled?
Certainly, the community has been taking on this issue very recently. And as a city planning commissioner, we've been really looking at all the options to solve the problem. In short, there's going to be some form of regulation. I see a community consensus there. I like the direction that the council and the staff are going right now, which is using an overlay map to have different regulations in different areas. I was on the record last week as saying that the green zones on the map need to be expanded for some traditional neighborhoods that have allowed vacation home rentals in the past. But in general, I think we're on the right track, and the key is going to be enforcement. I think having an enforcement mechanism is going to really quell the fears of those that feel they're losing their community character. And no matter what regulations we adopt, again, the rules need to be followed.
Thank you, David. Gail?
You know, I think it's absolute that regulation, you know, that we regulate and that we require all short-term rentals, you know, to register. I mean, that is long overdue. And I think certainly the regulations need to be clear and they absolutely need to be enforced. I think that, you know, hiring the firm Granicus to basically look at short-term rentals is kind of a right first step, really to look and see just what, you know, is in fact are the number of short-term rentals that we have in this community. Because we do have a housing problem, we also have a workforce problem. And a lot of the workforce problem is due to the shortage of housing, which I believe is directly tied to short-term rentals. We also have situations where there are, you know, communities and neighborhoods where we have short-term rentals in the neighborhood right next door, you know, to the homes. And I think that absolutely has an impact on the neighborhood character. Thank you.
Thank you. So Gail, we'll let you answer this last question first. Please describe the circumstances under which you would recuse yourself on issue discussions and a vote based on conflicts of interest.
Well, that's a good question. You know, I mean, I think it would have to absolutely be on a case-by-case basis. You know, as I indicated, I have a small business, and I, you know, certainly am interested in the, you know, making sure that we have a diverse economy. I, you know, right off the top of my head, do not think that there would be any circumstance that I would think I would need to recuse myself. So, thank you.
Thanks. David, how about you?
Well, generally the city has a policy and it's followed by all the boards and commissions as well as council. So in general, it is a small town. You're going to have occasional conflicts of interest. You can't obviously vote on a zoning change for your neighbor or if you're within 300 feet. And the general rule is if it's an obvious one where you have a business relationship with someone that's making application, you would self-recuse. Other times you put it to a vote of the entire council, see what they think. And third times you'll go to Dan Foote, the city attorney, and ask. So it really comes up less frequently than you would think. But certainly I would have no problem stepping down on items that anyone perceived I had a conflict on.
Thank you. So now it's time for a 1-minute closing statement. Since Gail went first, David, we'll let you go first this time for the closing.
This is a tough one, and it's going to be short and sweet, which for those of you who know me, this is really tough for me to be under 1 minute. I think going into this race, I was eyes wide open. I obviously have been here my whole life. And the most exciting part is talking to fellow citizens and actually listening to people's point of view. And I think that's going to be the biggest skill that you're hunting for tonight, is people that can build consensus and people that want to listen and can make hard decisions. You also want people with fiscal responsibility to run a big $70 million budget for you. And frankly, we'll never have enough money to do all the wonderful things we want here in Steamboat. So that's why I'm engaged. I'm excited. I have a positive attitude, and I'd love if you'd let me serve.
Thank you, David. Gail.
All right. Well, certainly, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening and to answer the questions and have a discussion. If I am lucky enough to be elected to City Council, I'm going to bring a multifaceted approach and perspective to the council. I'm going to look at issues from the lens of, a mother who worked while raising her family. I have, a business background, so I'm absolutely going to take a look at things from a business perspective. And I'm also going to look at things as someone who is deeply committed to preserving our natural environment and our community culture and our heritage. So certainly, I think our community is at a crossroads. Again, I'm committed to listening to all viewpoints, to working transparently, to being accessible, and to making community-driven decisions that preserve the culture and the heritage of Steamboat. So thank you.
Thank you both very much. So, sorry, I'm doing many different things here. So next up, we'll bring up our City Council District 2 candidates, Joella West, Blair Picard, and Louis Antonucci. I would not be a good waitress. Server. Just a second, guys. Let me get this. Thank you. Okay. We'll leave you a generous tip. Thank you. I would appreciate it. Okay, so we'll start with 2-minute introductions, and I'm going, I believe, by ballot order. So we will start with Joella. You'll start with giving your 2-minute introduction, please.
This city has changed a lot since the first time I came here in 2001. And a lot of what we see now is the product of decisions that may have been good when they were made many years ago, but need to be revisited now in light of changed conditions. We need to think differently We need to think differently about growth. Thank you back there. We need to think differently about growth, just as we've learned to think differently about public health and climate change. Growth got us where we are, but some of the consequences of that success are problematic, to say the least. And the City Council needs to think differently as a result. The Chamber's initiative asks our guests to visit responsibly. I think council's vision should be to grow responsibly. I want you all to participate in this vision. I'll reach out to hear your concerns and your ideas, and I promise to listen to each of you. Our city staff has an incredible amount of knowledge and experience, and I'll work with them as well. I'll be pushing to join with Routt County on some of the big issues that are critical to what our future looks like. The Brown Ranch, a regional transit authority, core trail extension, early childhood education and care. City council can make a bigger, city and county can make a bigger difference working together than if each of them goes it alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Joella. Blair, now it's your turn.
Thank you. Good evening, residents. As merchants, workers, retirees, you are all owners of our city. I'm here to serve you. We will all tell you that, but I will offer concrete ideas, not platitudes. Residents first. For 20 years, our council has been late on many issues. We need, but often lack, foresight, analysis, decision-making, and action. Action. Like the frog in the pot of water, we prevaricate. We reached a tipping point probably 5 years ago. The visitor-resident pendulum has swung too far, taking with it our quality of life. The pot's boiling. Council inaction has cost us valuable time. Short-term housing. We guessed 3,000 units 10 years ago. We have 211 on our roster. Identify, license, regulate, tax. I do mean tax. Even up the playing field, penalize bad actors. We collect about the same sales tax as Vail and Breck. They collect 4 times as much lodging tax. That's $3.6 million per year we are losing. Parking and traffic. Aspen pays for their free buses with parking fees. Make residents exempt up to a limit, draw lines around downtown, and get it installed. The technology is there. Do it. Housing, childcare, and lack of employees. Bullseye for resident unaffordability. The last 20 years, housing costs are up 100%. Wages are up 50%. You can't find workers or childcare, no mystery here. Make Steamboat affordable again. These taxes fall on our visitors, as they should. God bless them. But our visitors have driven affordability too far away from many residents. The golden goose has stopped excreting gold. I stand for action now, precise, intelligent, non-resident
Blair,
taxing
your
to
time's
help
up.
remedy affordability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Louis, it's your turn.
Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I've lived here for about 40 years. I wasn't born here, but I kind of grew up with this community, not in it, with it. I've been a small business owner for over 30 years. I, along with my business partner, started the Old Town Pub. I owned that for about 18 years. I owned a t-shirt shop for a winter, and that was like more than enough. And I've been a realtor for the last 18 years. I've served on city council for 12 years, once from 1989 to 1993, and then again from 2001 to 2009. Times have changed. In the early 90s, we were really trying to figure out if we could even be a resort town. We had empty storefronts downtown. We had people leaving town because they couldn't find jobs and couldn't raise their families. I'm one of those people that's a doer. I saw what was going on. I wanted to fix it. I got elected to city council. We had a citizens group committee that had given the city council recommendations. The city council that I was on took those recommendations, and we did things that everybody in the community enjoys today, including the core trail, trails off of the core trail, the ice skating rink, the tennis facility, the improvements to the Bob Adams Airport. And anyway, one of the most important things we did is a lot of the nonprofits that actually are part of this community and help make the whole thing work were in their infancy in those days. And we as a city council recognized the importance of those, and we funded them and supported them. So I was reelected in 2001, served until 2009. I was the city's rep to the predecessor of the Upper Valley Housing Authority. I was a member of the steering committee that created the Housing Authority and then served on that board. All that's in the past. There are 3 big things going on today, which has been mentioned: housing, climate change, and transportation. The one thing I want you to know, the thing that I've learned is that listen first,
Okay.
then make a decision.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Louis. No, that's great. Thank you. Okay, first question. We'll let Blair answer it first. So what are your top 3 funding priorities?
Top 3 funding priorities are all related to resident affordability. By that, I mean housing, childcare, and the environment. And transportation should probably go in there too. I've reviewed some funding ideas. I think those ideas will probably generate $3 to $4 million, and that's probably not going to be enough going forward. We have, the Brown Ranch, the huge development on the west side, is going to take, huge money to develop, to raise affordability for our residents. Same thing in childcare. We have childcare available before and after school. It was sold out in it's sold out in 1 minute. And we don't have enough childcare elsewhere in the city. Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair. Louis, we'll let you answer that question.
Repeat it.
What are your top 3 funding priorities?
I would say transportation, climate change, and additional trail systems, whether it be walking, hiking, biking, and sidewalks, for all the reasons that we already know, so I'm not going to elaborate.
Thank you. Joella.
I was looking forward to a real controversy up here, but I guess you're not going to get it. Certainly, transportation. I'm looking for an improvement in the existing bus service, but more importantly, I think we absolutely need to get on it with the county and figure out how to get a regional transit authority going in Routt County. That has to be a cooperative funding effort between city and county. Childcare has to be a cooperative funding with the county also. We cannot keep losing our childcare. We cannot keep losing workers who don't have childcare. And that's the second part. And the third part, needless to say, is affordable housing, Yampa Valley Housing Authority, and the Brown Ranch.
Thank you. Louis, we'll let you answer this question first. What role do you think City Council can play to address the climate change crisis we are facing?
Well, I think the City Council, the city as a whole, has made some really positive initial steps with the Climate Action Plan, and laid out in that are priorities as well as degree of difficulty, with also suggestions on how to fund them. So, I mean, number one, as I said before, I think it's a priority. I think City Council as a whole needs to look at what the priorities are, see what we can fund in-house, and then look for alternatives within the state. There's usually state funding, federal funding, those things, especially with this current administration, will, I think funds will become available as well as grants.
Thank you, Louis. Joella, how would you answer that question? And I'm happy to repeat a question. Yes. What role do you think City Council can play to address the climate change crisis we are facing?
City Council is already involved with that, with the Climate Action Plan. If any of you haven't read it, please go on the city's website and read it. There's a lot to absorb, but it's a great plan. It has a lot of different opportunities at different levels. Some of them can be put into play right now. Some of them we can get slightly ahead of, and some of them we just have to wait to develop. My inclination is always to go with regional transit. So again, you've heard this from me before. I would like to see a regional transit authority. I would like to see more buses, better bus routes coordinated so that people who work in town can use the buses. And I would like to see the advance work on electric vehicle readiness.
Thank you, Joella. Blair.
As Joella, surprising we're not both asleep by now, I read the 132-page climate action plan. It's interesting to know that transportation, 26% of our emissions, buildings, 32%, residential, 22%. Those are the big ones. That's the low-hanging fruit. Actually, Steamboat's done a pretty good job in reducing emissions from those sources in the last 10 years. But we need to do more. Renewable or clean energy, transportation, electric vehicles, all over. We need a drive and ride website. People need rides. People are going somewhere. Pedal and walk. Sounds like nothing, but it's a big deal. Think how many times you drive to town every day or across town. Try pedaling, try walking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question, I did not know you guys were all in on transportation, but here we go. It's good. This will be a good one. With the new Sleeping Giant School and plans to build housing through the Brown Ranch development west of Steamboat, how would you propose to expand transportation service to that area, and how should it be funded? I believe it's Joella's turn to go first.
I believe it is. Well, at the moment, as we sit here, the Brown Ranch is not part of the city. So this has to be part of the planning process as we move forward on that. In a perfect world, there should be adequate bus service to take care of that property. There should also be adequate walking and biking trails so that people can choose to walk to work or bike to work when it's possible. That all needs to be done for the Brown Ranch. Thank you.
Thank you. Louis.
What she said. Well, sometimes it does get that way. Yeah, I was on city council when Steamboat 700 came through for their application. There was a lot of discussion about transportation. Obviously, there's going to be a point in time when there will be a critical mass out there. I do not know off the top of my head, without reviewing the study, what that critical mass is. The last thing we need is buses that are empty. I live up in the Fish Creek neighborhood. I see buses go by every day with 1 or 2 people on it. Not the city manager, one of the other ones told me it cost $80 per person to ride that bus. So you can provide the service, but somehow we got to encourage them to get on there. Like Joella said, I mean, it's important that we provide that, working with the developers, working with the county, and also providing trails, walking, biking. Electric bikes have made a huge difference. I'm done.
Thank you, Louis. Blair.
I'm a Harvard economist, and the market works through incentivization. I'll get that word right someday. So we need to incentivize people. We need to promote. How do we incentivize? I mentioned parking downtown earlier. Riding your bike, scooters like they have in Denver, and trails. Trails are a huge part of our transportation plan. We have to get people out of their cars. Another alternative is, we have a lot of free parking at the mountain. Work with Ski Corp. Free parking at ski areas is becoming a dinosaur. Charge for those spots. Get people thinking about getting out of their cars again. Use that money to promote e-bikes, walking, whatever. Cars and getting them out and into the buses are the key.
Thank you. Okay, last question, and Blair will let you answer this first. Do you agree with the current council's approach to building a consolidated city hall and fire station as a downtown campus? Why, or yes or no, why or why not?
Yes, I do. I think it's important to have our institutions, our government represent something. I'm sorry, but it's a symbol. And certainly over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, we've seen everywhere, respect for government, not so much in Steamboat, in a lot of other places, being diminished. And I think that having that hall of government where, you're a fireman, you're a policeman, you're a resident, put it all together. You go there, you see that, you see your fellow citizens. That means a lot.
Thank you. Louis, how would you answer that question?
No, I don't. I think that we have got a great campus downtown Steamboat. Years ago, the city had an idea to maybe move City Hall out of downtown. We thought it was important to keep those city services acceptable to the, the electorate and the citizens that live here. So we chose to keep it downtown. I think there's a big difference between wants and needs. And I think, part of the tax issue is that we got to control our spending. We need to put money where it needs to be, and we need to learn how to live within a budget. Years ago, twice while I was on city council, we had a taxpayers advisory board. Twice they came back, and we're not, this isn't the question, but they looked at our taxing mechanism. Twice they came back, not everybody agreed, but that our taxing mechanism was fine. And our biggest problem was we had a spending problem, not an income problem. So I'm a fiscal responsible kind of guy.
Thank you, Louis. Joella, let you answer that.
I love this one. And some of you know the reason why. I started out as a volunteer EMT on the North Route Fire Rescue for 4 years while we were living there during the summers. So when you say fire to me, I get all emotional about it. I was on the committee that, the city committee for fire EMS funding. We got that mill levy passed. Hooray. At the same time, there was a committee that was exploring all the possible locations for a new fire department, a new fire station. It doesn't make any sense to keep it on Yampa Street if you think about getting those engines out on time. Needs to be elsewhere. I don't love what the city is proposing right now, but what I do love is that we need that fire station now, not 10 years from now.
Thank you. Now it's time for 1 minute closing. So Blair, we'll let you start.
Thank you. This election is more vital than most to successfully navigate our city's future. Are we to continue to become a less great place to work and live and just another pretty resort town? The 21st century moves fast. Everyone up here is a fine, likable person with the best for Steamboat in their hearts. We face new and difficult problems. We need smart, tough, action-focused leaders who can convert those feelings into effective policy and deliver for the community. That's the test. I've delivered before in Illinois. I pledge to use my ears, foresight, analysis, decision-making skills to take timely action to keep our city a treasure for guests and ensure it is restored to the place we love to live and work. Together, as a council, we can meet that challenge. Fellow owners, I hope you agree with me and will honor me by voting for Blair Picard in District 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair. Louis.
When you go to Denver or you leave town for a week, then you drive over the pass and you look down and you think, thank God I'm home. It's a beautiful place. We've got a lot of attributes. But the thing that makes Steamboat special is the people that live and work here, which is all of us, which is all of you. In my previous terms on city council, I tried to do what I could to help to maintain that sense of community, housing authority, free concert series. I'm one of those people. I am proven, I'm practical, and I'm passionate about Steamboat. So when you go to the polls, think of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis and Joella.
I've been involved in this community since 2003. I'm a 2016 graduate of City 101. If you haven't done it, you should go this year. I served on 3 city-appointed committees, the 2016 Community Housing Steering Committee Working Group for Low-Income Housing, the 2017 Accommodations Tax Reserve Committee, the 2019 Fire Emergency Services Funding Committee. I'm the immediate past chair of seminars at Steamboat. I've been on the executive board of Community Ag Alliance for 6 years. I'm in my second year on the Board of Adjustment. I worked as an election judge in the 2020 primary and general elections. I'm a former volunteer EMT on North Route Fire Rescue. I love this community, and I intend to leave it when I'm carried out feet first. If you want more information, go to my website, joellawestforcouncil.com. Thank you.
Thank you all. Now we'll bring up the 4 candidates who are running for Steamboat Springs City Council District 3. I am getting you fixed up. And would everyone like water? You're good? Okay. Would you two like a water? Very good. Okay. We'll start with the 2-minute introductory statement. And Dakota, we'll start with you.
Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you for those who put on this event. My name is Dakota McGinley. I'm running for District 3 City Council. I am a current student, a sustainability student at Colorado Mountain College. I'm also a local farmer, and I'm a former business owner. I understand the challenges that our community members are facing, as well as our business owners. I lost a business during the pandemic. I'm also living the experience of struggling to find affordable housing. I will be a voice for community members who are not fully represented on City Council currently. My top priorities: number 1, protecting the health and safety of our community through mental health and recovery initiatives and programs, other initiatives that meet our daily needs, such as housing to protect our members' physical and mental health. Number 2, preserving our community character. Ensuring this is a place where people can live and work and grow together. This is going to happen through a balance of our current needs with the challenges and opportunities on the horizon. Number 3, supporting sustainability in action. I will do everything I can to support the the Climate Action Plan, and all the organizations, partnerships, and nonprofits that are working hard to meet the needs of our community as well as future generations. City Council needs an aligned vision moving forward, and I hope to make City Council more accessible to the public and to the voices that are underrepresented. I will bring a new energy, a new vision, and a new voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dakota. Next up, Steve.
Good evening. My name is Steve Randall. Unlike a lot of the folks up here, I'm a relatively new resident. I've had my second home up here since 2012 and moved here permanently in 2019. Just a little background on myself. I've been married for 40 years, as I refer to her as my first wife. I have 2 children. I have an undergraduate degree in geology and a master's in business with a finance concentration. I've spent the last 30 years in business. 20 of it has been in managerial positions and executive positions. I have worked all over the world. Most recently, I took a second career. I was an affiliate professor of marketing in Denver at MSU Denver. Which was a great experience because I got to meet a lot of young, up-and-coming professionals. A lot of people ask me, why am I running for city council? And a lot of times I sit around at night and think, why am I doing this? Effectively, I'm retired. I'm having a good time. Most people see me on the river fishing every day. But my big concern is with the young people here. I see too many young professionals and couples that have been here 4 or 5 years and finally just said, I can't do this anymore. They can't live the dream that my wife and I did when we moved in to Houston, Texas back in 1979. My big priorities, sensible growth. I'm business friendly, community oriented, and fiscally responsible. And as we move forward here in this town, I want to be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Walter, you're next.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Walter McGill, and I'm running for the District 3 City Council seat. I've been in Steamboat since 1997. I currently have a business, 4 Points Surveying and Engineering. I have about 14 employees in the community, and we've been in business about 15 years. I'm married here, and I've raised 3 children here. 2 are still in high school. They all go to the public school. We're involved in the Winter Sports Club, involved in Holy Name Catholic Church. And we care a lot about Steamboat Springs. I've been on the city council in the past. I did a term of 10 years from 2007 to 2017. And I look back at those years and I built it into my life. It was time. I have a business and I'm very busy with my work, obviously this year as well. But I think in Steamboat, I want to, finish some things that we got started. And the first off is the annexation. I really believe the annexation got too much into the details last time. And when they're ready to make the annexation proposal from Yampa Valley Housing Authority, I'd really like to see it get it here zoned and annexed. And so that's the key, not to have the city council act as the planning department and hold this thing up 2-3 years. It can become a math problem. I don't mean to oversimplify it, but if you talk about, well, they're not bringing water rights, they're going to have to pay some more taxes over there. The infrastructure is substantial. The question about Gloria Gossard Parkway and that extension, we know it's going to go from Downhill Drive to where it's built now, across the Overlook subdivision, and another 1.2 miles. The city expects a 32-foot wide asphalt road with 8 foot of sidewalks. But there's a lot of issues here, and I think that calling the budget for the city and being a little more careful with the budget. We have a $116 million budget, and they're saving $700,000 in that budget. The rest is all spent. Capital improvements need to be looked at with a closer eye to help the community immediately. And so I hope that you'll look at this experience and let us finish what we started and vote for me in the November election. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. And Daniel.
Thank you, Lisa. Hello, my name is Daniel Gerke, and I'm running for City Council District 3. I would like to thank the Steamboat Pilot today, Steamboat Springs Chambers Economic Development Council, and the Steamboat Board of Realtors for hosting tonight's candidate forum. I'm running for City Council because I feel it is my civic duty. I am at a place in my life that allows me the necessary time and freedom to be able to work hard for our community. I believe I bring a set of experiences and skills that would be useful for representing and leading our community. There are many challenges and opportunities that we have, are, and will present themselves to us. Therefore, the areas that I want to focus on and work with our community are defining sensible approach to short-term rentals, working together to develop affordable housing, working with businesses and other organizations to find solutions for the worker shortage, advocate for our parks and trails so they have the necessary funding and support to maintain and enhance our quality of life. Besides these issues, I also want to work on pushing forward the climate action plan, as well as work with the appropriate state, county, and city resources to deal with the inevitable growth that is coming with the Brown Ranch development. And most important to me, I want to ensure the voices of our city citizens are represented on their city council. So if elected, I will participate in regular meet and greet sessions to ensure I stay in tune and calibrated with our community's needs and culture. You may not always agree with every decision I make, but I will share how I came to my decisions. I will make decisions by following the data, facts, science, listening to the citizens of Steamboat, and balancing the pros and cons, allowing us all to agree that even if we didn't get everything that we wanted from the decision that was made, we at least can come to an agreement that works for our community. I will bring a sense of urgency to this office and the goal of always being fair and transparent in how I conduct business on behalf of Steamboat citizens. My name is Daniel Gerke, and I will work hard for you. And I ask you for your vote to represent our community on City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. First question, and we'll let Steve answer this first. Do you support the Yampa Valley Housing Authority's Brown Ranch project in West Steamboat? And what does City Council's role in making it a success? And what is City Council's role in making it a success? Sorry.
Sure. Actually, I was pretty excited about it. I thought it was a really interesting deal. And would really like to thank the guy that donated the money to buy the land. Talk about somebody that had a sense of civic duty. As far as what City Council can do to make that happen, I think one is to streamline, we have to annex the place. So let's streamline the annexation process. Two is once it gets done and we are in the process of building, streamline the permitting process. From talking with contractors and builders that I've had contact with, I guess it's a fairly big nightmare on the permitting process, and see what we can do to facilitate that.
Thank you, Steve. Walter, how would you answer that question?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked. And it's one of the things that obviously the West Steamboat Area Plan for the last 30 years has picked this property. There's been 2 other prior annexations that have fallen apart. One was voted down. One wasn't completed in a time frame of the city. But the council can't get into the details. As I said at the start, it's planning and zoning. You need to subdivide the property into different 20-acre, development areas of density and what they can be used for. So that way they can sell off some of the land. So if there's a commercial zone out front for 30 acres, well, then you have a commercial zone. The roads are dictated, and the city needs to be able to bend to allow some of the roads and some gravel roads to be put in just for pedestrians and bikes immediately. And that's working with Yampa Valley Housing. The authority has an RFP out right now where they're looking at this plan, but it's key. Right now, there's a Gloria Gossard subdivision going in with 140 lots, and they're going to extend the parkway. So then there's still 1.2 miles left over to County Road 42, and the county needs to get that gravel road immediately.
Thank you, Walter. Daniel, how would you answer that question?
Well, I think, like rest of the folks up here, I support the Brown Ranch development. And I think one of the things city needs to do is not necessarily get out of the way, but make it a quicker process, eliminate the hurdles and the burdens, listen to the Planning Commission, as we've heard up here. Those are professionals from the city that are engaging, as well as citizens that are part of that Planning Commission. So it is a lot of different folks that have made a big commitment to this. Getting in the way of the efficiencies that we can, find as we go through this, I think is not the right way to go. We don't need to over legislate or over create more bureaucracy. I think the best way to deal with this is to streamline it, get those permits through, and then work with the appropriate folks and make sure we understand what the community is looking for in that. I haven't heard that from a lot of folks. We need to really work with the community about what do you want from that ranch.
Thank you. And when you guys, we're having some people that are having a hard time hearing. So if you guys could really pull the microphone close, that would be great. So Dakota, we'll give you a chance to answer that question.
Thank you. The Brown Ranch annexation is a huge piece of addressing the affordable housing and just the current housing demand. As a city council member, I would do everything in my power to ensure the annexation and the Economic Development Council can work with the Housing Authority and county if need be to get this project moving. We need to work to ensure the policies are there to support this initiative. We need creative solutions for affordable housing, for workforce housing, as well as family homes and senior housing. So anything that the council can do to, like these guys said, streamline the process, bump it up in the priority list, as well as try to work with, in whatever environmental, thank you.
Thank you, Dakota. Next question. Walter, we'll let you start. What do you think the city can and should do to address the local child care? I would call it a crisis.
Well, good question. I think that the city has been in childcare previously when we had the igloo down at Howelson Arena, Ice Arena on Olympian Parkway. But again, the city could look towards trying to find a piece of land or resourcing a building to make it into a childcare facility and then letting contracts out for childcare providers to operate out of that building. But I think the city's major role right now would be facilities and to try to create a building that childcare providers can contract out of. I don't see the city doing a good job of being a childcare provider and having staffing doing childcare. So it is a private industry, but I think if they could give a facility, that gets somebody to get their feet wet. So looking around at resourcing a building or buying a building that's not doing well, you see some office space available on US 40 right now and downtown areas as well. So I think that would be a key.
Thank you. Daniel.
Thank you, Lisa. Can you guys hear me back there? Raise hand. All right, great. So I agree with what Walt's saying. And then I would add, one of the other things I think is very critical is there are nonprofits out there. There are groups and individuals that have a deep invested interest in this. They've spent a lot of time working on these and they have different ideas. So I think one of the things the city can do is help create forums, help create communication. And the city council is basically a platform to where you can express opinions and people will listen to them as a city council member. So what I would do is I would reach out to the different folks in the community. I think very critical is reaching out. I've knocked on almost 1,000 doors now, talking to different folks. I was just next door to Steve yesterday playing guitar with one of his neighbors. He wasn't home, so he didn't get to hear us play, Can't Find My Way Home. But I think it's really reaching out to, right? It's really reaching out to the community and then what can the city do to help support that?
Thank you, Daniel. Dakota.
Yeah, I think that it's in the city's best interest to help the early childhood education availability and affordability in town. We know from research that that's such a profound time period in a person's life, and the more support that we can offer from the city standpoint, the better. We need to find a plan and partnerships for supporting these families. With the schools after school program being full, it's important for working families to have options. And yeah, there's not a lot of workers that are able to do this kind of work. It's an undervalued work. And so how do we raise the bar for our community members in valuing this? I would like to associate it with public school. How can we fund it in the same way we fund public school? I'm not sure the answer to that, but I would love to find creative solutions for that.
Thank you, Dakota. And Steve.
First of all, the child care issue is, I am the oldest of 6 of us with a single mom. So I grew up with child care and I know the trials and tribulations of somebody trying to get it. How we fix that problem, I'm really not sure. Business-wise, what we've done is we had vouchers and provided vouchers for child care to our employees. I would encourage most businesses to do that. We seem to have a worker shortage. Well, that's how you attract workers. Pay them more money, give them benefits. As far as the city being in it, I'm not sure if that's really going to work. I'm open to suggestions and I'd like to look into it, but I really, really think this is something that our businesses can drive.
Thank you, Steve. Next question, Daniel, we'll let you answer it first. Where do you stand on the issue of initiating a new property tax to diversify the city's revenue stream?
I'm always hesitant in raising any kind of taxes. Again, as I said in my opening statement, I look at data, facts, and science. So if there is a need, then we'll look at that. I'm not going to close my mind to taxes. I think that, I would go more towards an accommodation tax if we were looking to raise things. To basically charge our tourists that come in here, because we have a lot of tourists. This is only going to be more tourism coming in this town. The mountain put together, I think it's $160 million. So raising our folks' property taxes, when we're talking about affordable housing, worried about the neighbors. I think it was Blair, one of the other candidates, and I were talking. He had a good idea and a good problem. It's not a good problem. It's a problem. If now we have a lot of retired teachers, city workers that are sitting in multi-million-dollar properties, and we're going to sit there and tax them and basically push out folks like that help build the town, I would definitely have to look at that pretty seriously before I'd consider any kind of property tax.
Thank you, Daniel. Dakota.
Yes, we need to have a serious look at the budget. If we don't have the funding, we need to be honest with the voters on actual services and needs. We need to talk to the community about, what we shouldn't be putting anything forward that voters aren't going to support. Having a community discussion through surveying the community's needs is the best approach to maintaining a healthy budget. We know that revenues are not keeping up with expenses, and we need to talk to the community about infrastructure investments. We are a growing community. There are funds available through state and federal grants, and these funds won't sustain us in the long run. So figuring out, again, creative solutions that the community supports will be imperative to balancing the city's budget.
Thank you, Dakota. Steve?
One of the things I'm running on is fiscal responsibility. I think we have other sources of income that we've left by the wayside. It was mentioned earlier. Some of it's coming from our short-term rentals. Some of it's coming from parking. And two of those will solve a lot of our income. Property tax, no, I'm not a big favor of that. I just think, I know the issue where they talk about variable income. Well, we all deal with variable income and we adjust our own home budgets to that. And I think we need to do that as a city. Bank money when we can and draw on those reserves when we're short and look at what we're spending our money on.
Thank you, Steve. Walter?
Thanks. I think that the property tax gets some lift at times, but other times it's a budgeting question. I really believe it is budgeting question that $116 million budget, we have $42 million in capital improvements. So we have this excess of funds and we decide we're going to add another 16 employees. So in the last 4 years, the city's going to add about 30% new employees. Now our population hasn't grown that much and we certainly haven't annexed any new land. So I don't know where the money's going. I think we really have a spending crisis more than a revenue crisis. And I think that we have to budget more financially responsible for the future. When you look at this $116 million budget, and we're putting $700,000 aside for savings for next year. Well, what happens if it doesn't snow this year? That's why the diversification comes in. And so the diversification has merit, but it has to come with a reduction in sales tax. And so these things need to be looked at, but I think a little closer look at the budget, what the staff puts out by city council is very important.
Thank you, Walter. Okay, last question. Dakota, we'll start with you. Do you believe transportation is a key service the city should be providing? And if so, how should the city be funding it as transportation needs increase? And in particular, I'm interested in the funding piece.
Gotcha. Yes, I believe that transportation is a really big component to the community character, of people getting around town through having the bike lanes and the core trail and the transit. And I think for your question on funding, that again is a budget question that I think that they're going to be talking about tomorrow at the budget meeting. But we want to electrify the vehicle fleet of the city. And yeah, the strategies to fund that are, I think I would support some paid parking in certain parts of downtown, but I would like to look at other alternatives as well.
Thank you, Dakota. Steve?
I think transportation is an important thing that we have here in Steamboat. One of the things that attracted me to this city was our bus system. I actually have my townhome that's close to the bus stop. Love it. I think we can expand our transportation systems with the expansion of the court trail, more sidewalks, walkways, and encourage people to get out of their cars and use our buses, use their bikes, and as somebody said earlier, walk. I think we can fund it with parking meters. I think we can fund it with taxing our short-term rentals and also taking also the money out of the general fund and looking at what we are spending our money on. That's it.
Thank you, Steve.
Mhm.
Walter?
Yes, transportation is very important city service, but I think it's time that the free ride could go away. Bus service doesn't have to be free to the users. We have a lot of guests that can use the bus, but people are used to paying with things with their phones. You could have a low income waiver or seniors waiver, fixed income waiver, but you could start charging guests for $1 a ride. It's going to initially impact the service, I'm told, and certainly agree with that. But I think people are used to paying for things. In addition, I think it's time to look at partnerships with Ski Corps, parking garages. We talk about paid parking at the ski area. That's going to come one way or another, and it's going to fund a garage, a downtown parking garage. Parking, finally putting up, we're paving the rodeo grounds, but free parking right here at the rodeo grounds. And really trying to get that enhancement going, moving the, farmers market over to the rodeo grounds, away from downtown. And it's still in downtown, but we have this great parking lot that sits underutilized every day. So those are the issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. And Daniel.
I'm absolutely for the free busing. I think it's a really good thing, especially if we're talking about the climate action plan. If we're trying to get folks to go towards that and get away from cars, charging them money is not going to be a good idea. So I'm against any kind of fees for the busing. It's also been something, as I've moved here and my daughter, who's a freshman at high school, it's been nice because she's learned how to navigate through the city, through this very safe city, and learn how to use public transportation. I also think, from a funding perspective, there are different things. I like the idea of Ski Corp, but free parking in this town is a problem. I mean, if we want to move towards the climate action plan, we need to really seriously consider starting to charge for parking. That is a funding mechanism that we haven't tapped into, something that I would advocate for, something I'd look into. So I don't like the fact that we would talk about getting rid of the free busing. I think that is absolutely critical to the character and development of our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Now we're down to the 1-minute closing statements. So we'll start with Steve.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody's time. When I first visited Steamboat as a young geology student back in 1977, I was struck most with the character of the town. It had that Western feel. The ski resort fascinated me, and it was something that I always wanted to try. At the time, I couldn't because I was also a basketball player and we weren't allowed to. From talking with my neighbors, they feel that we're starting to lose that character. We all view this. We're a town that happens to have a resort. We don't want to be a resort that happens to have a town. And I want to be a part of the team that makes sure that we stay that way. We know we have to grow. And I think with my corporate experience and my life experience that I can bring some new vision into something like that. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Walter.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm running again, I think, because I want to bring my past experiences to the city. These next 4 years are going to be critical and changes. If it's paid parking, if it's adding a whole new community, 528 acres is going to support thousands of units out here. And we need to grow smart. We need to make long-term decisions for the future of Steamboat Springs. When I'm serving on the city council in the past, I've always thought, how is this decision going to affect us in the next 10 years? Is it going to make us better? And I always want to vote that way. And I want to keep in mind the families that grow up here and the kids that are growing up here. And we are a great place to live, an amazing place to ski. Keeping house and free is critical for diversity and letting people really enjoy our community. Yes, the bus service free. I do like it. But sometimes, that's not my issue. I'm going all in on. So I think I'm going all in on for the people of Steamboat Springs, and that they can reach out to me if they have an issue, and I'll answer it. So I look forward for your vote for Walter McGill this election. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Daniel.
Thank you, Lisa. I want to thank everyone that came out or watched the live stream, as well as our fellow candidates for participating this evening. I'm excited about this opportunity to represent our community on City Council, and I will work hard to make sure all voices are represented. I believe I have a vision for our city that is in line with our citizens, and that I have the ability to implement that vision with community support. The secret is out about Steamboat, and we are going to continue to grow. So I believe on ensuring we do so in a sensible, sustainable, diverse, equitable, and inclusive manner that brings out the best of our city as we continue to navigate the challenges of the pandemic and the opportunities that come from economic and population growth that our city will experience over the next several years. My name is Daniel Gerke, and I'm running for City Council District 3, and I'm asking you for your vote. Please feel free to catch up with me after tonight's forum or reach out to me on Twitter at Steamboat Gerke or email at steamboatgerke@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. And Dakota, close us out, please.
All right. Yeah, again, thank you all so much for coming and for being involved. I am a community member currently facing a lot of these challenges. I know what businesses are going through. I know what the community members are challenged with. I also know I don't have all the answers, and I will rely on lessons of the past, as well as researching new opportunities to meet the current needs of our community, as well as the future generations. I will work hard to ensure families, seniors, seasonal employees, and students all have hope for their future in this community. It's growing, and we need to have open conversations about what this growth will look like for each of us. All of our views. We must grow together as a community. I will show up with transparency, humility, integrity, compassion, and commitment, because this community is not only my home, but my future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dakota, and thank you all. So we will now, and if everyone wants to stand up, you can, because I know it's been long. We're going to now bring up the candidates for Steamboat Springs City Council at large seat: Dave Maloney, Eddie Briones, and Peter Hunter. So I did not hear anything back from Peter, so it looks like Peter is not participating in tonight's forum. So we will let Dave and Eddie have the floor. So let us begin. Dave, we'll have you start with your 2-minute opening statement.
Good evening. Thank you, Lisa, and to all of you that have taken some time out of your schedules to attend the forum or to watch online. My name's Dave Maloney, and I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts this evening on where we are as a community and where we can go from here. Thanks to the dedication of many hardworking locals over the last several decades, we've grown and prospered, and that's something we should all celebrate. It hasn't always been easy here, and we've experienced some rough patches along the way, but we've gone from being a small, relatively unknown ski area to a year-round destination resort market. And because it's such an incredible place with friendly people and amazing amenities, the town continues to attract people who want to live here and vacation here. Increased investment by the ski area, the new work from home paradigm, retiring baby boomers in large numbers, they're all fueling a growth spurt, and that is bringing some additional opportunities as well as some challenges. So as we move forward, there's a lot of work to be done to address issues like traffic, parking, the housing crunch, and many more. And I'm ready to get to work on these issues. They'll require thoughtful, well-reasoned solutions with input from a variety of stakeholders. I look forward to participating in this process with an objective and open mind and over 30 years of local perspective. My goal on council will be to help the city address these growing pains so that young people, families, seniors, our businesses, and even our resort visitors can continue to enjoy Steamboat as one of the best places in the world to live and to visit. Steamboat's given me so much. I can't imagine having picked a better place to come and make a life for myself. And I've tried to give back along the way, and I look forward to continuing to serve in the role of city council, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Eddie.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the forum. My name is Eddie Briones, and I'm running for the at-large seat for Steamboat Springs City Council. I moved here over 25 years ago, and like many of you, fell in love with the outdoors. I came here to ski and mountain bike, and it was only supposed to be for 1 year, and here we are. So over the years, I've worked different jobs, from a dishwasher at Winona's to a construction worker to a ski shop technician, and now I am in charge of your water distribution and wastewater collection for the Mount Werner Water District. I'm not afraid to do hard work to get the job done. That's what I will do for you on City Council. I want to be the voice for the teachers and healthcare workers, the construction workers, all the service industry workers in town, emergency responders, just basically the whole local workforce. My purpose is to speak for all the locals in town and represent them in City Council. I pride myself in having an open mind. I pride myself in being a great listener, and with a level head. I like to listen to all sides of the story, and then I take that and I run with it and base my decisions on that. So I don't have a personal agenda. I don't make decisions on people and judge them beforehand. The growth of Steamboat was inevitable, and I know many of us want this small town to be the small town, but it's going to change. But that's why I'm here. That's why I'm running, because there's some character left here, and I feel that we can still preserve it. So thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. First question, and Eddie will let you answer it first. What is your view of the current affordable housing crisis in Steamboat Springs, and how do you think City Council can help solve the issue?
Well, my current view on the affordable housing in Steamboat Springs, we have to look to the Brown Ranch. And as City Council's role with that, we have to work closely with the Yampa Valley Housing Authority and partner with them, make sure that all the details are looked over. Review and reaffirm the Routt County Master Plan, work with the county on that as well, and the Steamboat Springs Area Plan. I think that's very important to readdress that, and then explore different versions and diverse housing inventory types over there, so we make the best use of the land as possible.
Thank you, Eddie. Dave?
Could you restate the question? I know it's affordable housing, but I want to make
Yes.
sure I get to the.
What is your
root.
view of the current affordable housing crisis in Steamboat, and how do you think City Council can help solve the issue?
Okay, great, thanks. It's a great question. It's obviously something that's on everybody's mind right now. Steamboat is not as affordable as it used to be, and that's a function of the success that a lot of hardworking locals have had to build this community into something bigger than it was when many of us got here. As somebody referenced before, we could have locked the gates, at some point in time and say we did that 20 years ago, then there's probably some number of people in this room that wouldn't be able to be here right now. So the Yampa Valley Housing Authority set a goal in 2017 to deliver about 600 housing units, and they're about 45% of the way there currently, with an additional 90 units available next year and 75 other units set to break ground. That's a very significant number relative actually to the total building permits in Routt County. So there is work that's happening, and I think we can continue that work, and City Council certainly can work to try to get out of the way of anything that's going to prevent the Brown Ranch from moving forward quickly.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, next question. Dave, we'll let you answer first. What role do you think the city should have in funding the Steamboat Springs Chamber? Please explain.
I think there was a point in time when marketing through the chamber was pretty critical, and therefore the city did do some funding. I don't know that we're at that point in time now, and in fact, the chamber itself is moving directions. They're moving away from destination marketing to destination management, where they're going to focus much more on educating visitors on our community and how they can better interact with locals, the people that they encounter who are working, how to get around town, in sustainable fashions, things of that nature. So I think that at this point, funding for the chamber would not be a huge priority. I think businesses can shoulder the majority of the cost of trying to drive additional marketing.
Thank you, Dave. Eddie, how would you answer that question?
I think that city council's role in funding the chamber, I think we need to play a part, but not such a big part anymore. The ski area does plenty of marketing for the area. So we're seeing the tourists here. They're coming here no matter what, if we're marketing or not. But thank God for the chamber this past year, of course, because I think without them, a lot of businesses probably would have gone under, and town would have been a ghost town. So
Thank you, Eddie. Okay, Eddie, and we probably got more questions about short-term rentals than anything. So City Council has been exploring ways to regulate short-term rentals. These ideas range from increased enforcement to restrictions on where short-term rentals can be located. Do you think that short-term rentals need to be better regulated, and what restrictions would you support?
Absolutely. I think short-term rentals should be regulated. How they should be regulated, make the permit process just very thorough and a little bit harder, and tax. I mean, I feel that short-term rentals is run like a commercial business, and I think it should be taxed accordingly.
Thank you, Eddie. Dave, how about you?
The short-term rental has obviously been a hot button here lately. I know it needs to be addressed. We have a permitting system currently for vacation home rentals, but only about 200, I think it's around 215 or so, have actually been permitted. And it's estimated, I think, that there's maybe thousands of other short-term rentals that are happening within the city. So clearly we need to have a better informed decision-making process that's based on data. I want to see a data-supported decision-making process. In terms of regulation, yes, from my understanding, most of the complaints are, parties in the hot tub and people leaving their trash out and stuff like that. And if you have solid regulation and a solid permitting process, then you can identify these folks. And when there are problems, you got to have some teeth in the enforcement. And to this point, we've had no enforcement. And so we've got to up our game there.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, last question, Dave, we'll start with you. So the NEPA process for the proposed Mad Rabbit trails will be completed soon, and council will need to weigh in on whether funding some or all of those trails is appropriate. If the U.S. Forest Service gives its approval, would you support funding this project with 2A trails money?
If the Forest Service supports it, then yes, I would support it. I'm an avid outdoorsman. I spend a lot of my time, my personal private time out in the forest, both on developed trails, hiking, biking, skiing, but also bushwhacking off trail, foraging for wild foods and fishing little streams up in the mountains. I would defer to the experts at the Division of Wildlife and the National Forest Service to identify the appropriate locations. We have the funding. People supported 2A as a funding source for these types of activities. And if those who know best where we could locate additional trails are in favor, then I would support it, because I think dispersing our users further from what we have currently would actually be beneficial. We'd have less crowded trails, probably be better for the wildlife. So yeah, I absolutely would support it.
Eddie, how about you?
Yes, this one I hold close to heart. I'm an avid mountain biker, so I do support the 2A funding for the Mad Rabbit project. I believe, like right now, Buff Pass trails are overly used, which is great to see. But having another option over there would be great. It would relieve some of the pressure over there, and also on Emerald Mountain, which is another gem that we have. Building trails and having the money to support the outdoor infrastructure is very important, I believe. People need to be outside. As you can tell, for the last year, there was a lot more people outside. Who wants to be inside of their house and staring at a screen all day? It's good for your health. It's good for the people. And when you have healthy people, you have happy locals. And when you have happy locals, more people come.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.
Now it's time for the 1-minute closing. So Eddie, we'll let you go first and Dave finish up.
Okay. So, we're all in this together. It's all of our voices that need to be heard. And as for me, I've been a local for 25 years, like I said before. And I've heard it from all the locals. I'm outside all the time as in the Mount Warner Water District, and people stop me in the middle of the street, and I hear all the complaints. So as far as being the person for the job, I feel that I'm the person for the city council job at large seat. And I hope to get your vote November 2nd. Ballots go out October 8th to the 15th. And Eddie B for CDC, we're going to keep it at Steamboat. And regardless of who wins, I saw Dave in the parking lot the other day, and whoever wins this seat, you're going to have a mountain biker in the seat. So thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Dave.
Thank you all again for attending tonight's forum and for watching online. Steamboat's at a critical juncture in our history, and we don't have time to waste just trying to figure out how we're going to preserve the quality of life that's so important to each of us. The pressing issues that face us, they call for experienced leadership. And I have a track record of success in Steamboat. I've raised my daughter here, built a business, served the community, 6 years on the board at Lift Up, my mentor at-risk youth and music programs. I've served in my industry in roles that have helped prepare me to be your city councilman. I love it here, maybe as much as anybody. And my commitment to you is this: I'll work hard to ensure that Steamboat continues to be one of the best places in the world for people to live and to visit. If elected, I'll combine my passion for Steamboat with 33 years of experience and perspective to bring common sense, solution-oriented leadership to Steamboat. Working together, we can find solutions to our most pressing problems and begin to write the next story and a successful story in Steamboat's history. I'd appreciate your vote on November 2nd. Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Now we'll bring up the final race of the evening that we'll feature, and that is the race for Steamboat Springs School Board. So that would be Cresta Brinkman, Christopher Waters, Katie Lee, and Ken Malden. Okay. Come on in.
Is there a place for me? Is there a sign?
No, you can sit wherever. Yeah. And do you want that?
Just in case.
There you go. Okay. And do you go by Christopher or Chris?
Chris.
Chris. Okay. Thank you, Chris. And would you like a water?
Yes.
There you go. Okay. And thank you all for being here and for, we're doing pretty good though, I think, on timing. So, okay, so we'll begin with 2-minute opening. And again, we'll go by ballot order. So we'll start with Cresta.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me? Okay, how about now? Better? Okay, in the back, can you hear? I don't see a thumbs up, but I will speak loudly. Hello, my name is Cresta Brinkman, and I'm running for school board for the 4-year term in November. While serving on the board these last 2 years, I realize now more than ever that strong public schools are the heart of our community. My extensive background includes over 20 years of working with children in a variety of roles, which has equipped me with a unique understanding of the complexities of public education. I'm a former teacher with a master's degree in special education and a bachelor's degree in psychology. I'm also a devoted mom to 4 children all across Steamboat Springs schools. Our family has lived in Steamboat for over a decade and wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm a candidate who is committed to the highest ethical standards. As an advocate for all children, I have a track record in serving carefully and thoughtfully on behalf of all Steamboat families. In addition to my teaching experience, my passion for education shows up in the time I have invested in the students and in representing all of the district stakeholders. My experience has allowed me to understand and appreciate that we have learned a lot in our district these last few years. While serving on the board, I've played an integral role in supporting the hiring of an independent consultant and launching a culture and climate safety task force, safely and successfully operating during COVID, incorporating appropriate adjustments, and for the knowledge and disease the knowledge of the disease and our community risk has changed, initiating the renewal of our strategic planning within our district, guiding district curriculum alignment K through 12, and I am committed to focusing on strong leadership out of this pandemic while focusing on our district's strategic plan to bring the stakeholders to a stronger future for our children where they can go and grow and thrive. Thank you to the pilot for hosting this event and to the attendees and the viewers who are interested in learning more about your Board of Education candidates. I'm Cresta Brinkman for Board of Education.
Thank you, Cresta. Chris, you're next.
Hi, my name is, excuse me, Chris Waters. I'm the father of two in the district here, a daughter in 6th grade and a son as a sophomore at the high school. I am from Marietta, Georgia, and grew up traipsing in the North Georgia mountains. I love the mountains. Fell in love with this place, Steamboat, the first time I ever saw it on a high school ski trip in 1988. My wife is from Lakewood, Colorado. She went to the University of Colorado and equally loves the mountains. As Army brats, our kids have lived all over. On a tour in Germany, they grew up, learned to ski in the Austrian and Italian Alps, and they love the mountains as well. We are blessed to call this place home, and after 2 years, I'm still pinching myself that I live in Steamboat. I believe in the Constitution of the United States of America and the values and the liberties enshrined and guaranteed therein, not least individual liberty, the rule of law, free enterprise, and self-determination, and all the others enshrined in the Bill of Rights. As a 31-year Army veteran and graduate of West Point, I served my entire adult life guaranteeing and defending these liberties. I believe that the school district in the public sphere has a very precise, long-standing, historically based, and well-codified charter and responsibility to the taxpayer. And that is to educate our children academically and prepare them for either post-secondary education or workforce citizenry. And that there are very distinct academic subjects that belong in the public sphere classroom and school environment. And then there's a whole host of other issues that belong to the parents. When we were coming here to decide if Steamboat was the place we wanted to live, we learned that what a great community it was from an old rustic cattle town, that it had the community was surrounded by the kids, and that it had a great school district. In my closing statements, if I don't address it during the Q&A, I will tell you the two specific reasons why
Chris,
I intend to run for the district.
Got to cut you off there. Thank you. Katie, it's your turn.
Good evening. My name is Katie Lee. I've been on the Board of Education for the past 4 years. And when I tell people that I'm running for re-election, the most common reaction I get is the really incredulous, why? And while I won't deny that the past couple of years have been challenging, my answer really hasn't changed that much from 4 years ago. I believe those who can serve should. I feel that I've gotten the knowledge that I need to contribute confidently over the last 4 years on the majority of issues. I'm still very much excited by the opportunity to participate in the decisions that guide the district's forward motion. This fall, we will begin work on our long-awaited update to our strategic plan. The district and community will partner to clarify our vision of what a Steamboat graduate can be, and then create an actionable plan to accomplish this mission. In addition, I am passionate about the possibilities of collaborations with local businesses to offer wider exposure for our students to real-world application of their skills, whether or not college is the right choice for them. A new innovation center is under construction at the high school, and I think there are incredible potential for partnerships that serve both our students and local businesses in need of skills. It is opportunities like these that make me want to continue to volunteer. I also hope my critical thinking skills and my project management background has been and will continue to be an asset to the district. As a chemical engineer of 25 years, I am a logical but creative problem solver. I try to approach issues with a big picture point of view, gather data widely, and make the decision I feel best fits the community, regardless of my personal desires. I look for the opportunity to connect with people who have a wide variety of different views to truly understand what motivates their thinking. And I feel it's important that we can find common ground as we recover from the impacts of the pandemic and set our sights on what a Steamboat graduate of the future will be.
Thank you, Katie. Ken, it's your turn.
I'm Ken Malden. I'm running for school board to help create a more open, collaborative, and inclusive model within our district. I've earned a BBA in economics and econometrics, forecasting and estimation. I have 18 years of experience as a CEO in the professional education industry that I can apply to help our district. Since the last board election in 2019, we have observed the following conditions in our community. First, the superintendent, along with a complicit school board majority, not only ignored, but covered up school safety complaints from staff, students, and families for years, and only acted when the incompetence and corruption became unsustainable, after the concerns were communicated to the broader community through public comments in a board meeting. Second, a district teacher in a public forum openly wished death on entire families in our community for political differences. Third, we recently learned that almost 50% of our fourth graders, almost 60% of our sixth graders, and almost 50% of our eighth graders aren't operating at grade level math. When both our superintendent and our school board majority were covering up school safety concerns, there was no reason to believe anyone in district leadership would respond responsibly to any other serious concern brought to their attention. When we consider one, years-long cover-up of school safety concerns, two, lack of accountability, three, poor academic performance, it's no surprise everyone in the room knows a family that has left our district because they lost confidence in our school board's ability to manage this district's affairs responsibly. Our community needs a more open system that doesn't cover up wrongdoing, but rather practices transparency and accountability. Thank you for your consideration of my ideas. I look forward to working together and building a better, more open, and effective district for our community.
Thank you, Ken. First question, Chris, will direct this to you. What role should teachers play in teaching about politics, civic responsibility, diversity, equity, and inclusivity issues, and social justice?
I think teachers have a significant role in teaching civics of the federal system and the history of our government and how we came to be, and the Constitution and the 3 articles therein. The other subjects that you mentioned, I think teachers have a very limited role in teaching those subjects. Those subjects do not belong in the classroom. They belong to parents. And as such, teachers should respect that parents are responsible for the moral and cultural upbringing of their kids. I am happy to expound if we have more time. This district's performance is slowly, since 2018, trending downward, and we should focus on the academic enrichment and performance and success of our kids, not outlying classroom issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Katie.
Can you repeat the question, please? There was
Yes.
a lot.
What role should teachers play in teaching about politics, civic responsibility, DEI issues, and social justice?
So I believe that we are raising future citizens of the country, the state, the community. We do have a responsibility to think about what the whole child is learning in partnership with parents. And I think that, of course, teachers should teach about our political system, about being active in our civic process. That's an incredibly important piece. But I do also believe that we should be teaching critical thinking about where we are with equity, about how our systems interact with equity. And generally, we need to give kids the opportunity to learn about all the issues that our society is currently facing.
Thank you, Katie. Ken.
Okay, thank you. I think that teachers play a large role in educating our children, and that, that's the point of education. They should be soaking it all up. As far as the topics that you had mentioned, I want to start off by saying that I'm a lot more concerned that 50% of our 8th graders aren't performing math at grade level than I am getting distracted with other things. Now, civics is important. To Katie's point, we are raising citizens, and I think that it's important that we convey that information of responsibility to students so that they can grow up and be contributing adults in our society. But I think the most important thing here to this question is that our school needs to teach kids how to think, not what to think. And I think that if we can get through those processes of teaching them how to think critically, then we leave it to them to assign their own values to the question or the subject at hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Krista.
I feel like there is an incredible momentum and focus on civics right now. And I think that that's such a powerful asset for our children. I feel like for our students to learn about how policy is shaped, how everything through law and application appears in our society is so important, and teaching them to be able to understand and appreciate the Constitution, the history, the background of what our democracy is founded on, and what that looks like in the history, but also now. To date, I feel like the more conversations that take place around the history and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the more people will understand, the more students will be able to understand its important application in their everyday life, not only as citizens, as students, but as citizens, as adults. I also feel very strongly that I do not support teaching our students what to think or how they are to feel, but to teach them how to be able to think critically, to process and to perceive the world as they approach it today.
Thank you, Krista. The second question, we'll start with Katie. We'll let her answer first. The Steamboat Springs School District is one of the area's largest local employers. With that in mind, what is the school board's role in supporting local workforce housing for teachers and staff?
So I think both the housing crisis and the childcare crisis at the moment are probably our most critical issue in the upcoming year. We are already having trouble not attracting, but being able to have people who can find housing and actually take the jobs that they're offered, as well as retaining our teachers. So if we don't do something about housing, our schools will suffer. We can't do it by ourselves. It is a community issue, but I do feel like the district can take a leadership role in that. We have assets that can be useful, and we definitely have skin in the game to be able to solve the issue.
Thank you, Katie. Ken, how about you?
Thank you. I think that the board's role in housing is to advocate for a reasonable, equitable pay for our teachers. That we all live in the 4th most expensive small town in America. And I don't know how much of the community is aware of this, but our current collaborative bargaining agreement with our teachers will only recognize 6 years of seniority in pay. And I think not only does that put our community at a disadvantage, because let's say that we need a math teacher, and I've talked about that a lot with an economics background. Let's say there's a teacher in Cherry Creek that's looking for a job with 16 years experience to make it kind of even. Well, we're only going to pay for 6 years of that. Nobody's going to take a 10-year haircut in salary to come live in the 4th most expensive town in America. So I think one of the things that we could do is to pay exceptional teachers an exceptional compensation package. And I think that will resolve a certain amount of that.
Thank you, Ken. Krista.
This is a great question. Thank you. As one of the larger employers in our community, I think it's really important that we understand and we see the value of the fact that we are stakeholders within this community as we address this housing crisis that we are facing. I feel like when all of the different entities work together within our community to come up with creative solutions, I think we'll be able to find that there will be a lot of solutions that can be presented, but will be far more effective when all of the stakeholders come together to address this as a whole. I would also like to say that I like to see creative problem solving, like using district property to create housing for staff to be able to not only attract but retain staff within our district. Other districts do it that are comparable, and I think that that's a very viable option for our district. I also feel like regarding childcare, last year we provided childcare for staff to be able to ensure that they would be in the building when it was possible, and I feel like that would be another creative solution to help to kind of target concurrently both housing and also childcare within our district.
Thank you, Krista. And Chris?
Okay, thank you. I think the school board has an indirect role in ensuring that the total compensation for our teachers is suitable so that they can afford to live here. With that can be addressed with stipends or additional compensation that address the cost of living of actual living in the community. I also think that the teachers have a huge advocate already in the SSEA that can go to bat with the city council and those other entities in the community that are better served to address this issue. Our teachers in Steamboat right now rank 12 out of 178 school districts in Colorado in base pay, and they're number 3 of 9 Western Slope Mountain Resort communities. So our teachers are well compensated, and our turnover is extremely low in the state. If housing is an issue, the school board can be an advocate for either stipends or to the city council as necessary.
Thank you. Okay, the third question. Ken, we'll let you start. In your opinion, what is the single biggest challenge facing the Steamboat Springs School District?
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I don't want to repeat myself too much here, but the metrics that I called out before that referenced 3 grades, that we've got 4th grade, 6th grade, and 8th grade that are all at 50% or less meeting expectations where math is concerned. I think that should be an emergency for our community, that we're getting to critical mass here. I think that 3 full grades represents 25% of the grades in our entire district, where 50% or less are meeting grade level expectations in math. So I think that we could do a lot to improve our academic performance. I think that we need a more open, collaborative system, though. I think that if we could build that system, then together we could improve that academic performances and meet all of our challenges.
Thank you, Ken. Krista?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. In your opinion, what is the single biggest challenge facing the Steamboat Springs School District?
I would say right now, moving from a pandemic to an endemic world is going to be one of the greatest issues that we face as a school district. I think we need to be able to focus on addressing COVID-19 learning gaps, both academic, obviously, social and emotional gaps. I think we need to make sure that we are figuring out how we support students in a variety of ways to be able to recuperate some of the loss that has occurred, but also be able to proactively anticipate any of the needs that may come our way as we move through this next year. I think the next thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that in focusing on COVID, we aren't solely focusing on that in a way that pulls away from our focus on things such as making sure that students receive career and college preparation and creative programming to be able to access information in meaningful ways. Not only do they need to recuperate, but they also need to be able to build upon and reinforce those skills. Kids are so resilient, and we need to give them the credit that they have, but we need to give them the tools to be able to do so.
Thank you, Krista. Chris?
Okay, this question is at the heart of why I even considered running for school board to begin with. I think far and away, hands down, the biggest issue facing the school district right now is that this board and this district elected last year for our kids to only go to school for half a year. We were 3rd ranked in the state in 2018. In 2019, we backslid 4 points on our performance rating. We didn't get rated in 2020, and we just threw our hands up and said it was because of COVID. And so far in 2021, as Ken has outlined, our scores have recessed. So we elected, the board and the district elected to go to school for half a year. We have federal stimulus monies that expire in 1 year, in 2 year, and 3 years that we need to spend to recoup the losses from COVID pandemic. What is the plan to do that? This board has not been transparent in that plan.
Thank you, Chris. And Katie?
I think we have resources in place to help deal with the COVID gaps that we have seen. So I think our single greatest issue coming forward is the housing and childcare crisis, because I believe that teachers are really what makes the difference in a child's education. It's that person in the classroom sparking the interest of the kid. And if we don't have high quality teachers, it doesn't matter what other resources we put towards it, great facilities, anything else. It's the teachers that really make the difference. And we are going to be in trouble because it's sort of a downward spiral. The teachers can't get childcare. They spend a lot more money on childcare, then they can't get housing. It's this circle that is going to cause us to really have a lot of high turnover. And that's something that we haven't had before and has really detrimental effects.
Thank you, Katie. We'll have two more questions. So Krista, we'll have you answer this one first. When it comes to addressing the mental health of its students, especially after a pandemic that has only increased the mental health burden on students, how do you think the Steamboat Springs School District is responding, and what would you change?
Unfortunately, this highlights a very big concern that we have, which is that we're missing counselors filling some of the positions that we have. This goes into the heart of what Katie was addressing, which is we are having a difficult time for a plethora of reasons to be able to find people to fill positions. And unfortunately, counseling is one of those areas that is impacted. It is an absolute goal and focus, and was prior to the pandemic and now more than ever, that we figure out how to provide adequate and incredible emotional, compassionate support for mental health for our students. They're grappling with issues like none other. I know as a kid, I didn't face anything like a pandemic, and all of the issues that came before it and now because of it have become exemplified. So I think we need to continue to focus on finding creative ways to make sure that we can attract people to fill these positions and make sure that the programming and the grant funding that we receive aligns with the mission that it does to provide that support for our students.
Thank you, Krista. Chris?
Okay, I would start, and this is water under the bridge, but I would have started last year when we had a budget surplus that we just unanimously voted to give teachers and staff bonuses. I would have used those funds to address mental health concerns. This is a contentious issue in the community, and I realize it'll upset some folks, but if we're concerned about mental health for our kids, I'd get the mask off their face, okay, and let them sit in the classroom. We've learned, if nothing else, in this pandemic that the virus is going to spread. And we've also learned that masks are detrimental to learning. And so I would do that. We have, as I mentioned in my last answer, we have lots of federal stimulus money that can be used to address getting qualified people, counselors and psychologists to address kids who are suffering. And we need to address every single kid, because while this is a resilient community, there are kids that the setback from the pandemic is worse because they were not necessarily performing at grade level to begin with.
Thank you, Chris. Katie?
Okay, so the question was, actually, will you just repeat the question?
Yes. When it comes to addressing the mental health of its students, especially after a pandemic that has only increased the burden on students, how do you think the Steamboat Springs School District is responding to that, and what would you maybe change or maybe not change anything?
Yeah, we definitely are in need of counselors. We have a shortage statewide, so and it's not just a matter of pay. There's actually a shortage of available people with those skills, and I think one of the advantages Steamboat has is that people want to live here. Like we do attract great candidates, but with the housing and childcare issues, people just can't take the jobs. So again, I feel like this year we really need to do something to address that so we can fill these positions. In the meantime, we need to get creative. We have counselors with mental health training that are doing jobs that don't require, or part of their duties include things that don't require a mental health degree. And so I would like to see us try to unload that burden, the paperwork type burden, out from our counselors so that they have more time for mental health.
Thank you, Katie. Ken?
Thank you. I think that the brunt of the mental health challenges that we're dealing with right now are a result of our COVID experience, and both our COVID experience as a community and the policies that the school board implemented. I think that I would agree with Chris's sentiment that the fastest thing we could do to improve morale and mental health in our school is to reverse the mandate, the mask mandate, and let people make decisions for themselves. Let families make their own decisions. That I think that we start moving into gray area a little bit when we start talking about the school board having healthcare responsibilities and mental health responsibilities. I don't know how many parents here want their student to go into some counseling with a mental health counselor that they didn't approve of, that they weren't a constructive part of. Now, I recognize that the district's responsibility is to educate the whole child, but I think that we've got to be careful and stay in our lane.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Last question. What is the school board's role in ensuring students receive the best education possible? Chris?
The school board's role in ensuring the district's performance by way of that, the performance of our kids is simple. The school board holds the superintendent accountable for that performance. He is or she is the lone employee of the school board. And I think that by and large, when this school board has been faced with a challenge or a problem or an issue, they ask the superintendent for a recommendation. The superintendent provides a recommendation, and the school board mostly votes the same and rubber stamps the solution. And not that those solutions individually taken separately aren't good, but this school board needs to administer proactive guidance and intent and instruction to the superintendent, and then hold the superintendent, and by way of him, the principals and administrative staff and teachers accountable for the performance of the students.
Thank you, Chris. Katie?
So the role the school board can play in giving our students the best education possible. It's definitely about academics, but it's not just about academics. It's about helping a kid find whatever is going to make them successful in the long term. That sometimes means a college degree, that sometimes doesn't mean a college degree. And in our nation, 60% of our kids don't graduate from college. When they go to college that's the wrong stat. 40% of our kids don't graduate, 60% of them do. So we're sending 40% of our kids to college, and they come out of it feeling like they failed when really it just wasn't the right fit for them. So I'd really like us to look at all of the opportunities we can offer to our kids and talk about it from the younger ages up, so that they actually consider it to be a valid possibility. We have skills all over the U.S. that are short right now, and we have kids who college is not a right fit.
Thank you, Katie. Next is Ken.
Okay, and the question is, what could the school board do?
What is the school board's role in ensuring students receive the best education possible?
Okay, well, that's why we have a school board. That's why we have a school district. That's why we have public meetings where the community can come and participate through public comment. That the state of Colorado actually has a statute that is the specific duties of a school board. So the responsibilities of a school board are actually defined by statute in Colorado. And I'm on limited time here, so I'll say that in my view, if you were to review those specific duties, there's been a lot of delegation. And actually, I won't say delegation, I'll say abdication, because delegation requires oversight. And what we've seen along the way isn't necessarily a delegation supervision model, but an abdication model where they just kind of throw their hands up and say, oh, we don't have any control over that. So I think that the best thing the school board can do is meet their statutory responsibilities of specific duties of a school board member and do the best job. That will take us to where we want to go in terms of educating our students.
Thank you, Ken. Krista?
So the question was about improving academic performance and what the school board's role in that is. And what this looks like is encouraging and supporting creative opportunities and the delivery of curriculum through innovative classroom things, such as in elementary school, a teacher who has their students create almost a classroom link, the whale, that they can actually climb into, and they can do the reports on their unit on marine biology from inside this whale that they have constructed together, and to be able to share out and report what they've learned. It looks like encouraging programs at the middle school for financial literacy, like creating a popcorn ad, and then to be able to do all the marketing and the finance behind that to support financial literacy for their health and finance in middle school. It looks like biotechnology research in high school, and it looks also like the applied engineering program opportunities and many other programs like this within the district. So the school board helps to encourage and support academic instruction like this to improve the meaning and the application of what students access in their curriculum through the district.
Thank you, Krista. So we'll conclude with minute closing for each of you. So Katie, we'll start with you.
First of all, I'm really encouraged by the level of participation I've seen in the civic processes recently. So I thank everyone for that. It is critical that all of us participate fully in who represents us and its local positions that affect us the most. I think we've learned over this past couple of years that the role the school board can play or might be required to play can be unpredictable. We deal with issues that carry strong emotions for our staff, students, parents, and community, and the ability to remain calm and keep a rational approach is essential. Although the 5 members of our board come from vastly different experiences and approach issues as individuals, we must be able to find common ground and function reasonably if we are to move the district forward. If elected, I will do my part to move us from the firefighting mode that we've been in to the executing a community-backed long-term plan that takes advantage of the confidence we've gained to adapt quickly and gives us the best outcome for our growing community. I'm Katie Lee. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Ken.
First, I'd like to thank the pilot and Steamboat Board of Realtors for hosting this event for us. I'd like to thank participants for taking time out of your day to come and be a part of this, and the candidates for showing up. I think we should work together to realign or re-baseline the relationship between the community and our school district. With the resources available in our community, we should have a much higher performing district than we've experienced for the last several years. If the community selects me for the role, I will do my absolute best to advocate for all stakeholders and moderate a community-wide discussion that includes and considers everyone's ideas. I will consistently advocate for transparency, accountability, and work to return our district to the high-performing organization our community, most importantly, our students deserve. Thank you for your consideration of my ideas. I appreciate your support and look forward to realigning the community's relationship with our school district. My name's Ken Malden. Thank you again for considering my ideas.
Thank you, Ken. Krista.
As voters, you have 4 options to fill 2 seats for the Board of Education. Understandably, these last 2 years have been met with exceptional and extraordinary challenges. We are moving from triage leadership into proactive leadership. In me, Krista Brinkman, you have a candidate who is invested in our students and in serving our community. I am committed to the highest ethical standards, and I will advocate for our children while serving carefully and thoughtfully. My primary focus in this re-election is to address COVID-19 academic, social, and emotional gaps, to redevelop a strategic plan, and to do this with the stakeholders in our community for our district that supports 21st century skills and also helps to develop critical thinking and creativity in each classroom, and to ensure that all students receive career and college preparation that meets our students' unique and individual needs. Thank you to all who have hosted, who have submitted questions and participated in this forum, and thank you for taking the time to get to know your candidates. I'm Krista Brinkman for Board of Education.
Thank you, Krista. And finally, Chris.
As I mentioned in my opening comments, we came to this community because it's such a great rustic community that's retained its Western feel, that the community is truly centered around the kids, and that there was a great school district here. And so far, our community experience has been awesome. The community has lived up to its billing. I mean, and to include the teachers, each of my kids, I can only speak to what we've experienced, but we've had wonderful experiences with our teachers up until COVID. The board's decision and the district's decision to go to school half the time is why I kind of perked up and paid attention. And then when I started paying attention, I realized that this board's composition and disposition looks alike, acts alike, thinks alike, and votes alike. We need diversity of thought and diversity of ideas on this school board, particularly in this critical time when the strategic plan that's going to guide us forward as we move forward is going to be developed and built. So I think we need someone who's willing to challenge the status quo and raise the standard of excellence from the school board to the district. I'm Chris Waters. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. So that concludes our forum tonight. And I just want to thank you all for coming out and attending. And I don't know about you, but I am encouraged by the fact that all of our races this election are contested. And that's always a good thing. We have choice. So I would now encourage you to continue. We will be continuing to provide election coverage in the Steamboat Pilot and Today and steamboatpilot.com. And so become an informed voter, and obviously please vote. And I do want to thank our forum partners, the Steamboat Springs Board of Realtors and the Steamboat Springs Chambers Economic Development Council. Thank you all for coming.